Mr. E Crimecast. I am Mr. E. This is Mrs. E here beside me, and Auntie E joining us in person tonight. I'd like to welcome all of you that are joining us here on this Thursday night, and we have been closely following the Sebastian Rogers case for the last few weeks now, and we are on vacation at the moment. That's why we are all together. So we are working on a Wi-Fi that we're not accustomed to. We had a little trouble kind of getting this thing set up to start. So if the whole thing just crashes, I apologize for that. But so far so good.
And if you can see us, I would love it if you could put a 1 in the chat. And if you cannot, a 2.
Yes, we weren't sure this was going to happen or
Right.
not here about 2 minutes ago. It was looking like we were going to have to try to figure out a different way or do this another time. But well, anyway, I'd like to welcome you all here. Looks like we got quite a few folks there in the chat already, and looks like they can hear us. So that is good. That is good to hear also. So great. Well, we over the last few.
Oh, our moderator's here.
Or I'm out of. Hi,
Hi, Olivia. And Rocky actually said that Rocky set a timer so that I think Rocky's a girl. I can't tell from the pictures, but Rocky set a timer so she could be here. So.
Oh, very good, very good. Well, we have been seeing a lot of the feedback over the last few days, some emails, great questions. We're reading all of them, and really been fascinating and interesting and really just fun to look through. So we appreciate all of that feedback and all the thoughts you have. I mean, people are really putting a lot of great thought into all of this, as all of us are, I think. So we are now just past 100 days that Sebastian has been gone, and I think it's kind of that's a sad milestone. I think for all of us at this point, we were all hoping that we would have found him by now, and we'd be closer to resolution with the whole situation, and that unfortunately is not the case. If you saw the Nick Barris interview, law enforcement right now is saying that they don't have any or a lot of leads at this point. We don't know how true that is, but that's the public statement they're making right now. But for us, what we've been doing, we are going through the clues that are out there, and there are a lot. There's a lot of information, and Sebastian Rogers first went missing at the end of February on a Sunday night, the 25th, and was reported missing the next morning, the 26th, by his mother. And since then, there has been it's become really in a lot of ways a national story, and of course for us personally, it was close to us where we live. We know the school, and we know folks that live over there, and we're really touched by Sebastian. I think a lot of us have from a distance kind of fallen in love with the kid and are really rooting for a positive outcome for him, and that he'll be found. And you hear that in a lot of the theories. Folks are really working hard to come up with theories that involve him being still with us and found and rescued. And we're certainly hopeful that that's the case. But when you look at the theories, there's hundreds of possibilities to start. I mean, you could if you just kind of brainstorm, you could come up with all kinds of ideas about what could have happened to him. And over the course of the last few weeks, we have been trying to eliminate each one step by step as we could. And for example, last week or earlier this week, our last episode, we discussed the Seth issue, and a lot of theories surround Seth, whether or not he was the person that physically kidnapped Sebastian, what his motives might be. Could he have had an involvement in some conspiratorial way? So we spent the whole episode really kind of digging into that possibility, and for our purposes, our volume is very low. Okay, so maybe we can.
We have to get our tech person over here.
Yeah, our producer, our behind the scenes producer here is going to work on the volume for us. Oops. Which probably means turning a knob that we should have known how to do ourselves, right? That's what he's thinking.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Producer. We appreciate the assist.
So ask Karen if that.
Karen, is that a little bit better? Okay. Olivia says she's hearing okay. I think I have one of those voices that just fades or something anyway, so I've got to work on projecting a little bit
Well,
better.
We don't have our headphones tonight.
We don't have headphones tonight because we're all here, so we are able to hear each other in person. So anyway, we have been going through all these different theories, and we were able, to our satisfaction at least, able to eliminate Seth as a potential suspect. At this point, we don't believe he has any real direct involvement. He's got a solid alibi. The motives don't really make sense. And there's just a lot of contradictions. And if that would be in our latest episode if you're interested in looking at that. And then we tried previously, we'd been trying to work through the various contradictions. Physically, would it be possible to have disappeared into the construction site and things like that? Or were there places that made sense as a drop-off point if you believed the Texas Roadhouse from there to the home? Was there maybe a pass-off or something like that happened? And so we went and kind of followed those paths home to see if any of those were feasible, and camera angles and all that kind of thing. And as we've gone through it, you kind of one by one start to narrow down your possibilities. So like, I don't know about the two of you, but in my mind, I no longer consider the runaway story feasible. I think there's enough evidence that he didn't plan to pack up and just take off. I have that at a very, very tiny percentage chance at this point. Oh, it looks like the sound is better. Appreciate all of that too. So we're hopefully getting closer and closer to the truth. It's coming in. It seems like every day it gets a little more in focus to us as we understand more. I learn a new thing every day, it seems like, about the home or the Proudfoots or Sebastian himself. And of course, we're all in person last night, and so we're talking.
It was Monday.
This was Monday night. Yeah, okay. So Monday night we were all kind of hanging out after the end of our day and just kind of talking. And we just, of course, get on the topic of Sebastian, and we're rolling through different situations. And some of the questions and theories that we had gotten from the folks on our chat and our comment section was about a third party. And that's not something we had really talked about. So we hadn't really considered accomplices and things of that nature, if this were foul play in some way, or if it were one of the theories where they're hiding Sebastian, or those kind of scenarios. So we were talking through those possibilities, and we really kind of were bouncing off each other all kinds of ideas, and we started kind of stumbling into some theories and things that were really making a lot of sense that we hadn't talked about before.
Okay. Can we pause right there real quick? There was something that came up.
Sure.
It's from Helen F. that I think I'm not aware of. I wanted to see if you guys are aware of it.
My glasses.
Okay. Oh, your glasses are right here. Sorry. It says, what is your opinion of Seth sending a cease and desist letters to the creator saying to stop talking about Sebastian missing or Seth, but I guess Seth's name? I have not heard that at all.
That's news to me.
And if he's done that, creators are still talking every single day.
Yeah.
Especially the bigger ones that we've all heard of. They've had podcasts today. So.
Yeah, that would be kind of a naive view that you could do any. I mean,
you can send cease and desist letters. That doesn't mean
people are going to adhere
abide.
To
Yeah.
I mean, if you've ever, can I say this about the cease and desist letters?
Sure.
Not, we've sent. I know we know how the cease and desist letters kind of work.
Are you going to talk about us?
I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not
experience.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into details on it. But what they are is if you're not familiar, you'd have your lawyer write up a letter and send it off to someone, and you do a cease and desist, and it usually costs you like $300 or $400 or something like that to pay a lawyer to do that. And it's really more of a scare tactic, so that if you've got someone that's encroaching on something that you want them to stop, whatever it is, like you had a patent idea or whatever, or something along those lines, and you felt like you didn't really want to go full board and sue them right away. You just were hoping they'd stop, so you send a scary letter from your lawyer. That's kind of what the cease and desist letters. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, that's really what they are.
This is a good-
I don't know if I haven't heard that though, so I can't confirm.
Let's go to Perky.
Perky, I just don't understand how he can just disappear with the technology we have this day and age. Just shocking. Even at this late in the game, they have to know something.
I agree.
I thi-
100%.
Yeah, I think they do.
Absolutely.
I think they do. I think when they went on Nick Barris and they said things like, "Well, we just don't have any leads. This case is not going
Well,
anywhere."
that was the 100-day interview. Basically, nothing has changed.
I don't believe it. I think they have clues and leads, and I think they're building a case. Is that what we think?
I think so. I think we've kind of ruled out the runaway theory, and we think that they're probably holding things close to the vest until they have enough information and evidence to bring it forward, and possibly go ahead with charges or give out the public information.
Kelly Payne says it could have been T-Rev because of the drama he started. I don't watch T-Rev, so that's,
Right.
I have nothing against his channel. It's just not my cup of tea. So
I know nothing about him, so I don't.
yeah,
I don't
you have
know.
no idea who that
I,
is.
I have never heard of him either.
I think there's a couple of guys with similar names, even.
Well,
But
there's Trev Time.
Yeah, so I've never
And-
watched the
yeah.
other channel, but
Yeah. What? We just did that one.
No, just on down.
Oh, and hi, Christina.
It's from Susu. This one, Susu.
Where is Mr. Ed at? I don't know.
Mr. Mississippi, where's Mr. Ed? Who's Mr. Ed?
The horse?
The horse?
Mr. Ed?
I'm assuming he's back in the 50s where he belongs. Let's see.
Susu.
Oh, okay. You want to read that one?
I don't believe Katie heard a thud from Sebastian's room. I think that was added to create suspicion as to what happened. I don't think he made it home after the restaurant.
I mean,
So like a deliberate red herring is what you're saying. Like I mean I think that could be a possibility. I think the way to determine that would probably go back and watch when she actually says it, watch the video and see if there's any tells. Like, does she, if she's lying, if she seems she would seem deceptive, wouldn't she?
yeah. Susu has a
I think
follow-up
that's
comment.
possible.
Or is it Suez?
I don't know.
Susie Sue.
Oh,
Susie
Okay,
Sue. There we
Susie
go.
Sue.
okay.
That's cute. So why would Katie mention a thud but have no reason for not investigating?
Great point.
Yeah, we've talked about that
The
before,
thud, the
actually.
thud,
So,
yeah.
we've got all three of our children are upstairs, so we hear the thuds and the noises or whatever over the years at different times, and we don't always go investigate, but we would shout out, "Hey, what's going on?" I think it happened today. I think we heard a noise upstairs, and it was our middle son. And so I don't know that you always would necessarily go up and check out what it was unless there was no answer. At least we don't always. I mean, if one of our children answers back and says, "Oh, I'm okay," or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I think we would go on and accept that and assume it was okay.
Mm-hmm. This is just a clear up about who Trev Time is, and I agree with this. Trev Time has done a lot of hard work to try to help find Sebastian.
Okay, so this is Donna K. 1207. Trev Time is a great guy and advocated for Sebastian from the beginning. He actually was the one who first alerted YouTube to his disappearance. Oh, well, good. Great. Yeah, so it was just a little confusing with the names to me.
Yeah, he's the one that Seth that yelled at, that was angry with him.
Oh, we did that on the show. Like,
Yeah.
It had just happened, and we pulled it up on one of our live streams, and we were kind of like, "Oh my gosh, that was wild." Well, so anyway, do you want to do a little bit of this or do more?
I'm just sorry, I get caught up in the chat, guys.
That we do.
Yeah, if you want to get back on track, we'll go.
So the conversation we were in at the time was third party, and part of why I think at first for me, third party seemed like a real long shot, like low odds kind of situation. To me, you would think that if you're going to do something like, whether you were smuggling him off somewhere to hide him or worse, that the more people you have involved, the more likely you are to get caught. And so it just seemed like it was either one person in the home or maybe one and Chris, basically, right? To do something like that. Um, so I just kind of dismissed at first the ideas of an outside person, but there are reasons to think that it is a
Mhm.
possibility. So there's a few different scenarios. One is you've got the Bauer sock situation, just their own weird behavior, the going on vacation, and not just going on vacation, but um, like the smiley pictures, the happy Facebook kind of shots that people put up to show how carefree and great things are when you're in the middle of a major family crisis,
Right.
is at least extremely tone deaf, right? I mean, it's really strange. I mean, I would be horrified if my family did something to me that was their reaction in the middle of me losing a child. I would be really, really upset with them, and they were just taking
Oh.
these selfie anyway. So with the Bauer Sox, there was this story that came from one of the PIs that she had a direct source that placed the grandmother Bauer Sox, which is Chris's mother, the stepfather's mother, at that Warsham's grocery that we've talked about a lot. That is
That we went
maybe
to.
yeah, that we went to. That's right across the street from Sebastian's high school, which would be in the area that Katie would have gone to supposedly or actually looking for Sebastian the morning he went missing. So it places them both kind of in the same area, like in a major coincidence kind of way. That's, if true, is hard to believe. That's a big coincidence, I
It is a
think.
big
So
coincidence.
if it's a coincidence, it's weird. If it's not a coincidence, it's worse. So anyway, there's that, and then there's also the way that Chris has acted when family and outside parties come up. Like if you go back to that Web Sleuth interview, the one where it starts out with Chris, and then eventually the other PI joins, and then Seth ends up calling in, and then it becomes just kind of chaos from there, and all these wild conversations. But in that, at the beginning, when Chris first calls into Web Sleuth, he's at first furious that his parents are being mentioned about that trip to Alaska, and that's the rumor that's got him the most upset. The other one he brings up a few minutes later is that about their properties the family might own, like a funeral home and those kinds of things, and he kind of makes fun of and talks about how ridiculous that is. So, like, of all the crazy stuff that was out there, the rumors, those are the ones that he decided he needed to call in, kind of, call attention to and try to disprove. Actually, made me think the opposite.
Hmm.
That maybe that means that something is on their property, or some kind of evidence,
This
or
is
that a family
interesting.
member was involved. It was kind of like, um,
Garrett here says this is
sure.
kind of interesting.
Garrett Clemens, did you see the video of Bowersox following JLR, the YouTube creator, when the case first started after leaving the Proudfoot's house? He got out and JLR got them on video. They were acting really weird. No, I did not see that.
Mm-mm.
No, that's interesting though.
I had just in general heard YouTubers mention being followed at times, but I've never known what kind of stock to put in. I, those things I just always assume were not probably true. But if JLR had video, then that is very interesting. And I do know who JLR is. Yeah.
And there's also some discussion in the chat going on with Jules, the dog handler, discussing that whether the scent was found at the construction site. Apparently, this is what Kelly said. Go ahead.
Kelly Payne, Jules the canine talked with the original law enforcement canine handler and confirmed the dog did follow a track to the construction site, then lost it. I'm wondering if someone was parked there waiting.
I mean, it would be pretty obvious with that. The construction site is, if you go back to a couple of our videos, there would have been tracks. There, it's a dirt road. And it would have
Right.
been it would have had to have had an SUV of some sort, I would think,
Yeah.
or a truck.
You're driving,
And
you're driving out, leaving, because it would be what, a couple hundred yards of dirt.
it would at least a couple hundred yards of
Uh,
dirt.
if you met him at the top of the hill, and if he met you at the bottom, he's going to have to walk through a couple hundred yards of dirt
Yeah.
down a really steep hill and then drive out of a neighborhood with existing homes right past them. Like there's only one way out of that neighborhood. And there are probably 30 or 40 homes down there.
And then our moderator, Olivia, said, Ellie said no scent, which is Ellie's official statement.
That is.
But that doesn't, there's been so much.
Yeah. So this is one of those things we talked about a lot too, actually, because we Chris wants us to believe that the scent went there. Katie wants us to believe that.
Oh my goodness.
So that actually kind of
we have had our first super chat.
Oh.
I cannot even believe it.
Well, thank you, Misty Fisher.
How do we get it to come up?
There it is.
But how do we make it big?
Is it producer? Is it showing?
There's a little bit of lag.
Okay.
There's a lag.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So it'll come up in a moment. Is that what we're saying, Mr. Producer? Okay. So super chat will be here shortly. So we'll.
I don't know how to do that, but I found it.
Okay.
Yay!
So this is Misty Fisher. When KP didn't find Sebastian in his bed or in or around his house, why would Katie not contact her son's dad, Seth, first, even before calling anyone, even 911? In my opinion, that's number one red flag.
That's a very, very
This
good
is
point.
from Misty Fisher. Misty, you're our official first super chat. Thank you so much. That is awesome.
And your point is great.
And you have a great point.
It is. That's one we have not talked about that I recall.
Not specifically, no.
Other than in just more of a vague way that that whole morning seems like I don't trust anything they talk about that happened at 6 o'clock that morning. That all seemed fabricated to me. In general, but with as far as why Seth, and instead he gets a text from Chris later
that says
don't be mad, but your son is missing, or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing.
I don't think you're paraphrasing
Is that
too much. I
exactly-
don't know
is
if
that
you're
exactly-
taking too much of a
that
leap.
might be
because I'm
No,
pretty
I
sure
think that was pretty much his exact word.
That might be exactly right. Okay, so it's
a lot of people are agreeing with Misty, and so do we.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, you would call to say, hey, have you heard from Sebastian? I can't find him. Did he call you? Is he with you? Do you know anything? Right? I mean, none of those things seem to have happened. She didn't, it doesn't appear that she went knocking on anyone's doors next door, called any friends in the neighborhood to see if he was over there. Not calling Seth is big. So I'm going to take
And
a look at
that's content in itself, something that kind of went on a tangent about last night about the comment itself. It's just a very odd comment to make when you say don't be mad. I said I likened it to a child. A child will say, "Mommy, don't be mad," but when they do something wrong and they're trying to apologize for it or trying to make amends, they say, "Don't be mad." Well, you wouldn't say don't be mad if you didn't have any involvement. You would say, "Listen,
Here's what happened.
here's what happened. We got, Katie got up this morning. Sebastian's missing." Not, "Hey, don't be mad." Don't be mad insinuates to me guilt because you had something to do with it. I mean, and that just seems like a statement. You wouldn't say, "Hey, don't be mad," but you would not use that phrasing at all. You would just say simply, "Sebastian's missing. We wanted you to know as soon as possible."
Oh, Misty Fisher has another comment.
Misty Fisher, y'all are welcome. Bring on the super chats.
You are so sweet.
Yes, thank you.
I am Misty Fisher's biggest fan.
Yeah, thank you very
That's
much.
so exciting. It's so weird when you start doing this stuff and you have people that like what you have to say and want to, recognize you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, this was we were doing this for fun. Or not fun.
Not fun.
But,
to raise awareness because we talk about it all the time.
But it is something we've done we've been having these conversations anyway, and we weren't we were content to be discussing this with 12 people like we had been. And then several of you chose to join. We're very happy to have you all here.
And is the sound still good out there? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Producer says we're good.
Okay.
Um, so
Well,
we're looking
anyway,
at
do you
the
want to
chat
get
here.
back to our?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so then of course there's other possibilities with these outside people. I'm sure many of you have heard there's other theories about, maybe someone hired or a friend of the family, cousins, um, you know, that type of thing that might have assisted in getting Sebastian out of that house. So then that conversation kind of moved into us discussing CPS reports. And of course there's a lot we don't know about them, and what they might mean, and there's so many of them. And so, you know, Aunt E has a background in education. And so we were asking about, the nature of CPS reports, and how they actually work, especially at a school. And so I thought you might be able to help
Well,
kind of there.
having worked in a school for many, many years, I know a lot about how reports are made, why reports are made, and there's usually a few reasons. First of all, is visible sign of abuse, that's been inflicted on the child, whether it be through a sibling at home, a parent at home, an extended relative, a grandparent. It could be anyone in the home or extended home. You would do a referral, and it can come from signs like marks on their neck, marks on their arm, a bruise, or it could come from the child coming to you and saying, "Hey, my dad spanked me with the belt," or my dad put me in my room and won't feed me dinner because I didn't pick up something. Or there's lots of reasons that abuse can be evidenced by the child to the teacher or another person at the school, and the school would call. um that's the typical way, but there are other ways that a school is alerted to problems, and it can be a child doing something in the school that is alarming in behavior, that can cause you to say, something's going on. I want someone to know that this child is acting out in the school, and we want this on the record so it can be investigated. So that's something that can be done, and it not necessarily be a visible sign of abuse coming from the home, but something strange happening at the school that could cause something like that to be reported, so that CPS could kind of get to the root of the problem, talk to the parents, talk to whoever, to see where these problems are coming from and if there's more things that need to be investigated. So that's, the two typical ways. And also third party, you could have someone call and say, "We know this kid's getting abused. We want the school to call." And a lot of times people won't call anonymously. They ask the school to call. And it depends on the reliability of who's calling. If it's a grandparent or an extended family and they want to report it, that's another way that the school gets information and can make those calls.
And Nichols, as a teacher, I've made several reports and nothing ever comes of them.
Well, and that's a good point, very good point, because very often you're at the mercy of CPS. Sometimes CPS will review those reports and feel like they're not credible. We've done that as a school many times and get very frustrated that something's not done, the kid's not removed, that that it wasn't investigated more, that there's not something going on with CPS to make sure that the child does not have that happen. But not all the time. Sometimes CPS gets information, and once they've received multiple reports, like maybe 3 different reports, then there's a lot more red flags going up and things get done. But it does vary by county and by state how those things are handled. I mean, and you're at the mercy of how that system does it. But that aside, that's one of the, that's something we were thinking about as we started talking about what could possibly be a reason for Sebastian disappearance. What are motives? What are things going on that we need to know more about? And that's definitely something that I think we need to know more about in order to piece the puzzle together as to why he has disappeared.
Just Chill would want to know. I mean, from your perspective, does that happen?
What?
Just Chill is asking, would a cop also come to look into things? So like if somebody made a report about it, is that just CPS that would handle that, or do you ever have the police come to the school?
It depends on if it
Keep
involves,
shooting off camera.
I'm sorry. It would depend on if it involves something that would need to be CPS related, such as maybe a gun in the home that the child said, "Hey, my dad left his gun in the drawer and I was playing with it last night." that might be something that would be reported to CPS, but also law enforcement to investigate, but not typically. Law enforcement usually doesn't get involved unless it's with illegal substance. We've had students with drugs that were in their backpack and they didn't even know what they were, but they just had them and they were in the home, and those do warrant sometimes police reports. It just depends on the situation, actually.
And just Jill said thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, that seems messed up, doesn't it?
It does.
Because
it does.
if you've got no matter the form of abuse, it should be
Looked into.
And yeah, not everything's a legal issue. In that respect, CPS would then do a referral to, if they felt like they had enough information to remove the child, they might do that. But many times that is a last resort. And I know that firsthand from many situations where our school would report things and that child needed to be taken away immediately, but it sometimes took weeks. Sometimes they didn't take them away, and sometimes they did successfully take them away and they never went back to the parent. I've had that happen as well in our schools that I've worked in, and it varies from case to case and situation to situation. I actually know of a child that moved from Tennessee to Kentucky, and that situation happened, and it took a few years before that child, he had medical condition, and it took a few years before that child could be removed because the parents just didn't have the intelligence level to be able to handle and manage that child's health care and health problems because they were extensive, and the child was suffering, and he was in I would say his life was in jeopardy, and so they did ultimately take him and put him in a foster care with a parent that was actually a foster care person that was actually a nurse that could help him with his medical needs. But that doesn't always happen so successfully. But it can, but it takes a lot of time. But these people tried to evade the CPS system and move from state to state, and that happens as well. And you almost have to start completely over.
Wow.
And it's a hard situation, but it does happen that way.
That's messed up.
It doesn't seem like it's the system's right.
Well, I think we have a lot of broken
It seems like a
systems.
lot of it. It seems like it. Yeah.
I did want to acknowledge
Sure.
this because I think we all,
Yeah.
Lana, we all agree that Sebastian was failed by a lot of people. In his life.
Everybody.
Everyone in his
I mean,
life.
really everybody.
Throughout his life, from a small child all the way until the disappearance, for sure.
All right.
Uh,
Let's see. I want to go through this. Oh, what is that? Oh my goodness. We've got another one.
There's one too.
So this is Tiffany Hecker. Many similarities with Letitia Stouch from the
Stouch. Mhm.
from the noise, thud, and picture taking and sending or showing the father, as in, see, he was great. Both did this. I don't know that.
Good point.
Do you know those stories?
Yes,
Letitia
that's the
Stouch?
Gannon. Yes, that's the Gannon. That's the little boy that was in the suitcase, and the police
Oh.
searched the house and didn't find him.
Oh yes,
Hmm.
showing the. Yeah. Okay. So
There
what
are a
she's-
lot of similarities, Tiffany. You are correct.
That's a good point.
Yeah, what she's
That's a
referring
really
to,
good
if
point.
you don't know, this was from the Bullhorn Betty interview that we talked about last episode. She did a 2-hour interview with Seth, and at one point he's talking. One of the more interesting parts was when he was talking about that time at the Proudfoot's house, like the 2 or 3 days after Sebastian was missing. Like, and he
Yes.
said when he first came to the home, that was what Katie did. Was she walked straight up to him, held up her phone, look, he's happy. Everything was great. Like, did
Well,
that
yeah,
kind of
she
thing.
was showing him.
Show him a picture at Costco.
She said he was at BJ's, but he was actually at Costco, I think.
Kind of
yeah.
like kind of getting ahead of herself there.
And I
yeah.
think we missed Amber. Amber, I'm really sorry. If you want to put your comment back,
Amber Martin, little aunt.
just gave us $1. Well, thank you so
Well, thank
much.
you very
And if
much.
you have a comment that we missed somehow, because I'm not good at this stuff, please feel free to comment and I'll put it up. Don't feel like you have to put money on it.
Deborah Vandenhovel. The bottom one there.
What is this?
She says, we are now 6,060 minutes gone by and
By
of
the
this
end of the
day
day.
that he's been missing.
It's 1 minute too
Yeah.
many.
And if he's still alive out there, every day matters because he's in more danger every minute that passes. So
Good point.
Oh, yes. And Nichols says CPS is overworked and so many kids fall through the cracks. 100%.
And I think
Yeah.
that is this case. In a nutshell, this child, had from family has said, he had certain things happen to him at a young age. He's had problems throughout his, childhood growing up. He's had instability in the home. He's had to deal with divorce of his parents. I mean, there's so much that this child has been exposed to and dealt with that I believe has led to the problems and the reason that he's gone.
Yeah. And it's kind of hard. I mean, you kind of, it's true that they failed, but CPS work. I mean, what a difficult job that would be.
Well,
I mean,
and that was something we found in the schools. I mean, we would start with one social worker and sometimes go through 3 or 4 because they burn out. I mean, they burn out, and you would get one and you think, oh, we're making a difference where, they're meeting in the home, they're going in regularly, the child's showing improvement in grades or things seem more stable in the home. And then you'd switch workers and then you'd switch workers again. And it's like starting over every time at the bottom of the hill, and you get to halfway up and you fall all the way back to the bottom. And that's what it would feel like at the school level, because of CPS. And I admire anyone that stays with CPS for even more than 2 or 3 years, because it is such a difficult job, and it can be a very unsafe job, having to go in these homes and deal with people that can be somewhat violent, or you really don't know. It could be a host of problems in the household.
Such a sad
job.
I mean, it would just be you'd really have to, I mean, it would take a lot. I don't know if I could do that kind of work. I really don't. Garrett Clemens says, I just don't know what to think. 1 minute I think he's not with us anymore, then I think someone may be hiding him or took him from an online conversation.
From meeting him online. Yeah.
Oh yes, like an online person.
I think we've all gone through that. I mean, we've talked through that many times. We think, okay, there's a chance, and we still keep holding out hope that that he will be found alive, and that possibly there is a third party involved that has him out there and is taking care of him, or is at least at the least has him, and at some point might give him back.
And I just want to take a quick moment to ask everybody, if you feel so inclined, we would appreciate a like. If you could click that like button and help us in the algorithm, I would really appreciate it. Before we go now, you guys can go.
Thrive Collective. Katie described going from waking up to hysterical, calling Chris in 3 minutes flat. It makes it fairly easy to assume that the time of the crime was much earlier than that. He's dead, in my opinion. I mean, yes, I would agree that whatever happened was much earlier than that. Like I said, the most unbelievable part of her story to me has always been the 6 o'clock part. I think that's complete fiction. Everything else may have some grains of truth, but I don't believe anything that happened. That can't be confirmed from 6. And then,
Misty,
keep going. I unfortunately agree with you on your conclusion. Thrive Collective, I think that's probably the case, but I can't rule out the possibility he is alive. But if I'm betting on it, I think that's probably what happened. But maybe the optimistic thing, we all just are hoping that
we hope he comes home safely.
But there are possibilities.
Okay, Misty.
Okay, Misty.
Misty did this again. Misty, you're amazing.
Misty Fisher, check out Peter Hyatt's Lives on Sebastian's case. He's an FBI professional deception detector, paraphrasing his career title. Very informative. We
absolutely love Peter Hyatt.
Yeah, I've listened to several of his videos on Sebastian. He's great. His most recent one he did on Sebastian was really, really good. And I agree with him. I don't know. Does he still have the theory that he believes that Sebastian left the home because he was forced out in some way? I know that was his initial.
That's where
theory.
That's one of the only things I disagree with him about.
Was that just a theory of his as a possibility?
He thinks based on the language that based on the language and the focus on the door that he was forced out in some way.
In the way that they described it in the first interview, the door was locked. The way they say that he walked out the front door and the door was locked.
And then when I listened to I can't think of this guy's name offhand, Steve Johnson on the interview room.
Yes.
actually at one point during that also came to a similar conclusion, and he hadn't seen anything about the case or Peter Hyatt's review. And so it's like, man, okay, these are two linguistic people that are coming to the same conclusion that, if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically that the idea is that they believe that Sebastian was maybe forced out the door, like go to your dad's house or get out of here. They slam the door on him and then he disappears. Or that maybe it was some form of punishment, like, you know what, you just go outside and think about what you've done, lock the door, come back 2 hours later and he's gone. Like that kind of scenario is what Peter Hyde at one point thought, but I don't know. I mean, way more interviews have come out since. I don't know if he's changed his position on that or not. I think that's in the low percentage chance myself, but Peter Hyatt is great, so you got to take it seriously as a theory.
Somebody said they looked up the bus schedule and the bus comes at 6:18. Why get a child on the spectrum up so late? Well, we don't know for sure. They lived so close to the
A quarter of
school.
a mile away.
I mean, a quarter of a mile or even less, something like that. And she could have driven him to school every day for all we know. We don't know that he was a bus rider.
You want to talk to Thor?
Sure.
Said Thor, motive. Are you insinuating that there was some sort of a crime? I'm sure that Chris Proudfoot's lawyer would love to hear your theory. Well, there's a criminal investigation, according to CBS local news, and the investigators themselves have said that it went from being a missing person to an investigation about a week into the case. So
I think they said
they
72 hours, actually.
72 hours.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then they also brought in a district attorney, the state district attorney at the 3-day mark. And so it does appear that they believe that there was a crime. Exactly what that crime is, we don't know. It could be a kidnapping, could be something far worse. We don't know that. But the government, the investigators believe there's a crime by their actions. So glad I could answer that for you.
Everybody keeps in the chat keeps saying it's Chris. So
No, it's clearly Thor, God of Thunder. It's funny.
Well, but they're. I mean,
I know. I mean, that's what
well,
they
they're
did.
not treating it as a runaway.
They're not treating.
So
nobody's-
it's either an abduction. It's
What else could it be if it's not
You know,
a
you're-
runaway?
some form of. I mean, I would assume taking a minor, even a minor that's willing to go with you, would be a crime. At this point. So yeah, very likely a crime.
oh
We have no idea who committed the crime, though.
that's fine.
Have fun. Yeah. So I think theories are protected speech.
Yeah, there's a lot of protected speech that people like to throw out and act like you can't say. So
Um,
well, anyway, do you want to
it's
go
funny.
back?
I don't know.
No, go ahead.
I actually doubt that's actually Chris.
Well, it's
It really doesn't matter. I mean, everything that we've done from the beginning of our podcast have all been theories and speculation and just giving opinion. And actually, some of it may not necessarily be our opinion, but just so much as developing theories and possible solutions to what could be a crime or a disappearance. We don't know.
well. Tara wants to know if we're being crystal clear. Let's see. Thor, are you going to give it to your lawyer? That's funny, but
It's funny.
yeah.
I'm amused. Thank you for that. Well, so anyway, do we want to get back to
Sure.
the list of
Yeah.
stuff?
Okay, you wanna put it back up on the table so you can
rough
see?
outline of the way the conversation went. So then what that, so I guess the way we had been thinking about the CPS reports was that it would be not originating at the school with the child exactly, and you gave some examples the other night of situations like that where they've happened. And so that got us thinking, like, what if, like, one of the things with the CPS reports is, of course, they're all protected. We don't know who's talking about who in them. You hear about a CPS report involving
especially with a child like Sebastian who had two home,
Yeah.
two home environments. Those can come from anywhere. It can even come, like I said earlier, from a relative's house. It doesn't have to be from the primary home.
Right.
It can even be a friend's house. And something happened at a friend's house. You just never know where some of these reports may be generated from, and where they need to be investigated
Yeah.
at. So that's just something that you just never know.
Like the ones that involve the Proudfoot home, is it Chris reporting something that happened, or is it something being reported on
and
him?
it could be the parent. It
or
could be the
Katie,
parent
or,
report. Yeah, it could be a parent reporting against another parent. It can be, like I said, a host of things. It
Yeah.
could be a host of things. We've had many times grandparents calling and concerned about what's going on in the home,
Yeah.
and wanting us to investigate in even one of their children's home for their grandchild. So I mean, it's very common,
Yeah, I mean,
and you never know.
it leaves a lot to the imagination, which is kind of terrible too.
Right.
I understand why things are anonymous, but I kind of, or confidential that way. I understand
Right.
that the idea that you're protecting the child, but it also seems like you're protecting the predators and the perpetrators and the criminals more. It seems to me.
It's like anything in any crime, you have to be proven guilty. And those situations with CPS, they have to have enough evidence to prove what's
Yeah.
going on. And even sometimes when they have evidence, they don't always have enough evidence to warrant any kind of action.
I'm not sure if we want to put that up, but that is.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway,
Ops, OPS, is that stand?
well, we're not tech savvy, so
I'm
we're just
not.
going to skip that part. and
Okay,
read-
Mr. E and you three are amazing people who care about this case. We
Yes,
do
we
appreciate
really
that.
care
Ted,
about
We've
Terry.
cared about it from the beginning, and it's really, really
For
been
those-
something
well,
heavy on our
Probably
heart.
too much. Probably
Well-
too much. We spend a lot of time worrying about this. We thought of. I mean, I think there are a lot of people that that are just tied to this, and we're going to see this through to till its conclusion, till we get either justice or this kid back. That's where I'm at. I'm always going to follow this case and think about it. And that's how I. Oh, sorry. We're reading some of the. Yeah, I know. We see the stuff going on in the chat, and it's hard for me to want to address rumors that are not confirmed. Just I understand they're out there. We know about them. Anonymous rumors from one source, unless it's from a reporter that I trust, or even a citizen journalist, even that I have repeatedly seen them use anonymous sources and they've been accurate over time, where they've earned my trust. I can't go with them. I can't count that as verifiable information. I just can't. And but we see it. We just try to stay away from the rumors stuff as much as we can, and kind of base all of our theories and thoughts on what we know.
And
what
we
can know.
take a lot of evidence from the interviews and phrasing and wording, and I think that's where we get a lot of. I mean,
oh my goodness.
that's where we get a lot of it.
What? I don't even know what this means. This is amazing.
Wow! So
How-
they gifted 5 membership.
Tis me. Gifted
Oh.
5 memberships. So if you guys got a free membership, then thank you, tis me. Oh my goodness.
I think that's the code that they use to get their membership.
I have
I-
no idea.
I actually don't know how does that work.
I don't know.
Do
We're gonna
Tisney,
have to ask our tech person.
how does that work?
The amount of people that
He's
the
laughing.
amount of people that you will gift subs to are randomly picked out of the chat to receive channel memberships if they don't have one already.
So we can just pick some random.
No,
five-
they
or
it
can-
randomly does it.
Random.
Oh, so for 5 people.
Oh, well,
Or you-
great.
or
We
you
hope you
can
guys
choose-
take it.
Or it's possible you can choose the people you gift it to. I don't know exactly
You're not
how
sure.
it works on YouTube.
Somebody said you
Okay.
should have 10 free.
I
On
what?
Just Chill said you should have 10 free. I don't know what that means.
Like
That's
maybe another
awesome.
one's coming in or something.
Oh my
and,
gosh, you
and
guys
like-
are amazing.
and Lana said the same thing. YouTube picks them.
And by the way, I just want to clarify. Earlier, Tara had said that she was spelling "oops" and not "ops," and I was just assuming that
Like you weren't tech
like,
savvy.
yeah, that OPS was just some cool thing that I didn't know.
Don't go too far.
So she said she had
We
some trouble
need you.
typing or something. But anyway, that was that. Yeah, Mr. Producer's got to stay here. So I'm glad that the show has worked out tonight. We were really not sure that this was going to be able to happen.
It's very makeshift.
So what one of the things that took us to on the CPS discussion was what if the CPS reports were not like we kind of thought? What if it was at school? Like what if the CPS report was about, was made by actions of Sebastian acting out in some way at school?
Because we have heard Seth mention that he had behavior problems at school.
And I believe that's what he had said. The reason that he was coming to live with him full time and go to online school and get in some intensive ABA therapy. He felt like he needed more therapy than he had been available to get. And so that was the solution for how they were going to work with some of the issues. So that's kind of how we pieced that together.
Yeah. So if he were having some behavior problems at school, maybe CPS had been called for that purpose. And then, and that kind of does line up with the situation of having him on the online school and getting the ABA therapy. And just so you know, the ABA therapy to me was kind of, I don't know, kind of struck me strange, because if you're not familiar with what it is, it's a form of therapy that was, as you know, or some, I guess new people wouldn't know necessarily, but we do have our oldest son has autism, and he was diagnosed very young, and we did all kinds of things to work with him, the occupational, speech therapy, everything else. But by far and away, the best therapy we did was the ABA based behavioral therapy.
Yes.
He improved leaps and bounds with that. And so anytime I ever meet a parent with a child that has autism and they're young and they're trying to figure it all out, I always mention the ABA therapy and diet, to target those two things first, that those were the big things that helped us. But ABA therapy is like, it's positive reinforcement. So it's like, you highly praise the good, you ignore the bad. So, which is harder to do than you think it is. Like, so when the child has a meltdown, you just completely ignore it. And then until they act the appropriate way, so if they want a cup off the shelf, if they're crying and screaming and tantruming for it, you don't even look them in the eyes, you wait. And then as soon as they say something like cup or
Right.
anything that you think deem appropriate, then you, hey buddy, great job. You give them the cup, high reward, right? And that's kind of a layman's way of describing that type of therapy. And the more hours of that you can get, the better. We went from nonverbal to he can complete sentences, and he's making jokes now. That's actually a more recent development. Like he gets jokes.
He was spelling all afternoon for us.
Yeah, I mean, he's making up his own jokes at times and doing them in appropriate context. Like, just improved way beyond where a lot of folks told us we thought we could get, right? But the thing with ABA therapy is it is the most effective the younger the child is, and it becomes less and less effective for most once they get kind of into the teens, and if you think about how kids just develop in general, you can kind of see why. It stayed fairly effective for our son, but that's sort of because his maturity is really low. He's like the maturity of a 4-year-old in a lot of ways. So he kind of still thinks like a little kid. But for a lot, that it doesn't work as well the older they get. So that's why they want to do as fast as they can. So anyway, that to say, it would seem strange to me to introduce for the first time in his life ABA therapy at 15 years old, unless you were addressing some, I don't know. It just seemed, do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That seemed like an odd time to bring that into his life when I'm sure they had discussed it.
Well, I wanted to mention.
Okay.
Misty.
Misty Fisher, the issue is Katie and Chris did not take the time to figure out how to help Sebastian with his disabilities versus Seth, who seems very informed on Sebastian's disabilities and knows how to deal with Sebastian's behaviors. Yeah, that was actually, when we watched the Seth interview, that was where I thought, I kind of had thought, well, there were a lot of things to not like about Seth, but there were some things to really like. Seth definitely understood his medical situation backward and forward. You could just tell he had a solid base. He was plugged in on his medical disability needs that way. Don't have any thoughts about any of that part?
Well, that kind of goes into what I
Okay.
think Della has
Okay.
said here. She said, if the CPS reports were regarding Sebastian's actions at school, I feel Seth would have been involved and notified as well, since he is so involved and has shared custody. He did talk about that in an interview about what he received, and
Well, he had to go through his
and
lawyers
he
to
had to
get that
go through his
information.
lawyers to get those reports because that he was not informed and he did not get them, just outright because he was the parent. So I think that he made some specific comments about those reports that were quite shocking.
Yeah, that's the words he used, right? He said it was shocking. He said it was eye-opening was another way he described it. And he
Yes.
also said there was something else. Oh, he also said
You
it
wrote
pointed
it in
out.
your notes.
Yeah, I know.
Mm.
He also said that it pointed out how there was a poor lack of communication between he and the Proudfoots. Like things had not been shared with him that should have been.
So I thought that kind of lent itself to.
And so, when I first heard that, I just plugged in the assumption that, okay, well, that's something about Chris and Katie. But then we thought, well, what if that was about Sebastian, something going on with him that he was not being told? So you always got to check your assumptions. You make assumptions and you
I'm
have to
sorry.
question yourself on them.
I have to. That's hysterical.
Consider yourselves, Donna K1207, consider yourselves validated by the Proudfoots as creators. Wow, that's, I guess that's something.
He's still
Is that
writing a
something?
list of questions
Yeah.
if
yeah.
and when he runs into Chris that he has for him.
Or Thor.
Or Thor. Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just thought that was I
No,
couldn't
that's okay.
ignore hysterical
It
comments.
is funny.
On our YouTube
Is that a-
channel,
I guess
too,
that
we're
is a-
getting all these hearts and smiles, and so whoever's doing that, thank you so much. We really appreciate the love.
What?
I
Where's
also-
Charlene McPie? What does this mean? The
What-
door had the keypad. He knew the code.
The front door had a keypad where you put the numeric code in, and he did know that code. That I think Chris and Katie both said he knew that code.
Oh, the Sebastian did. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I wasn't sure who she meant
Well,
by
that's
she.
actually Della. I want to say that too. With having shared custody, he should have been told. 100%. I agree.
Yeah. I just don't know. Legally, does he have to be? Do you know
I do
that?
not know.
Well, that's a good question. I think it depends on how the state handles that situation or the school. Now, from a school level, we only had to tell the custodial parent, the parent that the child resided with the most. In a shared parent situation, many times both parents would come in when that child started school and said, we both want the information. We both want a report card. So we would have to make a duplicate report card and mail the duplicate report card
Yeah.
to the other
That makes
parent,
sense.
because we even had some that were out of state or out of the country that wanted to know what was going on. So if something happened, they notified the school this is what they wanted. So unless they did that and went into the school and said, we both want to be at all special education meetings, we both want to be notified if there's a discipline issue, we both want to be, they have to tell the school that.
It's like they have to opt in.
It's kind of like that. Now that's the way it was where we were. We needed that information. Otherwise, we just gave it to the parent that had the majority of the custody, and they were asked to share that with the other parent. But like I said, there were parents that did not get along, did not speak, or both wanted to be informed, and that's the way we would handle it. Is we would send duplicates of everything, and if like special ed meeting, we would send them both a notice for that meeting, or if we had a behavior issue, we would call both parents and let them know in the same way. And invite, if it was something where we needed to have a meeting, we would invite them in, or we would do a phone meeting where if one parent couldn't be there, they were still all there, and we did it by phone with the one that couldn't be there, and still held it in Zoom meetings, things like that.
Well, actually, let's see. This is Della again.
Okay.
So
Della.
This kind of gets us back to
Della. Seth
What we were
also
talking
said
about.
from CPS reports he now knows what's going on in that house.
That is, yeah, he did
Yeah.
say that
He
in
did.
his interview with
You can tell he's
with
really.
Pascal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he was at one point he was going to release it, and then he didn't.
Then he backed off.
And I think
Which
he,
kind of-
he also talked a little bit on the Bullhorn Betty interview about that as well. He talked
Mhm.
about the CPS reports again with her.
And we aren't doing any clips tonight, guys, because we have a Wi-Fi connection that we feel like we're teetering on the edge of a table and gonna fall off.
Like we had everybody in the house like turn off their cell phones just because we were afraid.
We're
that
not at our normal place.
We're like
Can you
barely
go on
hanging on here.
I am too better.
I can't believe the show actually happened because that Wi-Fi.
I am too bear says that is stupid. It should be automatically both
It's
informed.
unfortunate. Yeah.
It varies from district. And it depends. Yes, CPS should notify both parents because that is a federal agency that needs to be letting both parents know. But schools, work differently in different districts. Some schools are private schools, charter schools. All schools are different in the way they handle those situations. But we always, when a child enrolls, the parent is asked, do you have two parents? We go through all that and ask for that permission. But it sounds like it would be something that is stupid and should automatically be done, but it's not
Yeah,
necessarily.
unless
always
there's a
done.
law triggering it,
Right,
they're
right.
not going to do it. So it seems like there's just not a law for it.
Right.
All right, I haven't gotten there, but Tiffany's back.
Okay, so Tiffany Hecker, as a social worker, yes, he's supposed to be notified, but unfortunately, this happens frequently in split homes.
It's just a
Yeah,
lot of times there's
okay.
a breakdown in
I-
communication, and so
So
like
it-
Tiffany said, you just have like two parents they don't get along or they don't want to have the other one involved. It really depends on the situation.
So
Okay.
why would Seth have to reach? Okay, so knowing that, but why would Seth at this point, with a missing child case, have to have a lawyer get the information
He
for him?
shouldn't. I don't understand that because that's through CPS, and I don't know why he would have to have a lawyer.
Because he claims, and Katie has also confirmed that they have 50-50 custody.
Right.
Even though he stays with them during the week and Seth every other weekend, they do.
And unless the information was in a closed case that it had not been, he probably had to get those records because maybe the case was still open, and they don't necessarily share the investigation process and the documentation until they come to a conclusion for how to handle that case. So I'm just guessing on that. I
Okay.
don't know, but there's a reason that he had to go through a lawyer. I'm assuming because that's not something they typically give an entire report on what they did and their process. And
Is there something you want me
Well,
to?
there's a debate going on in the chat from a few people, and so I guess people are discussing whether or not Sebastian knew the key code to the garage.
I want to say hi real quick to one of our members, Brenda Penny. Hi, Brenda.
Hi,
Thanks
Brenda.
for joining us.
Thank you, Brenda.
I sent a message in the community tab specifically for our members. I hope you get to see it.
So I guess Linda had said that.
Oh, right here.
See,
A
Donna
little
Kay
higher?
is responding to Linda. Sorry, but in numerous interviews, Katie says Sebastian did not know the garage code.
he did not know the garage code, but he knew the front door code. I'm assuming that.
I
they
think
are
that's been
different.
on Bullhorn Betty today. I think people have been discussing that today on Bullhorn
But
Betty.
I think, but Chris said
he knew the
Chris
front door
said
code.
he knew both. I thought.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. I do know. I do remember him saying that he did know the front door code, but I believe in that initial interview with Duchess, they said he did not know the garage.
But again,
code.
it's do
I
you
would have to
believe
go
them?
back and review it. But there's been a lot of information.
I mean, I could see her lying about that anyway. Wouldn't you think you just have the same code?
Not necessarily.
No,
That's a
Okay.
lot of codes to have to remember, I think.
I mean, I would guess they'd have the same code, but maybe not.
Well, they might be the kind of people who have a different password for every account.
She is
too.
a security expert.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
that's
Oh,
true.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
That was another thing that you were talking about, or that I had just a kind of a thought, but about her working, installing security systems for a living. And something I had thought about in terms of the third party scenarios is like if you have an electrician come to your house, we've had that happen before. The electrician came to my house once, and he's looking around. He's like, all your sockets are upside down. The person that put in your right, so they notice that because they're an electrician.
Mhm.
So like if a roofer comes over to your house, it might be like, yeah, you're gonna have to replace those shingles in 2 years or something. But like
Right.
the typical average person doesn't notice. So I would have to assume that Katie notices security stuff, right?
Right.
So and probably could tell you the quality of the cameras, the quality of the security systems, how far
That's a good-
the
very good
cameras go, what angles and all that. She probably could just out of because she's in that profession could tell you what camera situations going on in her neighborhood
Mhm.
just because she does it for a living.
Mhm.
So if there were a third party, okay, that were arranged to come to the home to take Sebastian for her, where she doesn't actually leave the home, but somehow she would know the blind spots.
Possibly. That's
Yeah.
a theory. That's a theory.
She might know, what, this row of houses right here, it goes into the woods right there, or this street, there's only a ring cam there. If you stay over here, you can be,
Mhm.
that might be, I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing
Mhm.
that out there, but
Yeah.
it seemed to me, I don't know, a possibility.
I think people are getting a little antsy about our motive since we're about an hour in.
Okay.
I
All right.
think this is a good point, though. I am Two Bear said if the case was still open, all the more reason to believe Chris may not have been allowed to be in the house, gone all month, and that Sebastian may have been scheduled to testify. I don't know. We don't really know about that, but I know when there is an open case, sometimes that might be one of the resolutions. He needs to leave the home for X amount of time, or this person needs to leave the home and stay somewhere else until the case is closed. But we really don't have any idea about any of those reports, so we can't speculate on if it was on Chris or on Katie or on Seth, or if it was a school generated report that had nothing to do with what was going on at the home. We really don't know. It's just speculation, and that we don't want to throw any allegations out there because we really don't know. But it's just things that have gone through our mind about our theories and and what the motives might be for his disappearance.
Yeah. So I guess we could kind of get into some more of how this came about. So one of the
Just quick summary of how we got here, because we've had new people join since we started talking about it.
basically we had a conversation starting with potential third parties, which led to a conversation about CPS reports and how, when they happen at a school, situations like an environment like that, it could be a situation where the CPS report would be involving a child at school and maybe not directly something they're reporting about a parent, like some kind of
In the home.
misbehavior.
It could be a
at
behavior at school and not
Not
necessarily.
necessarily
something
from
that happened.
derived at the home.
Yeah,
Right.
right. So and you've had cases like that
Absolutely,
yourself
yes.
in the past where
Many.
you've sat in on those meetings. And so we thought, oh, well, that is a different way that we hadn't really thought about. So we're always trying to challenge our assumptions. So then we go, okay, so what if this report's not about directly, at least Chris or Katie? What if it's about Sebastian? Does what we know fit that possibility? Okay, because nobody knows what's in these CPS reports, and it could fit in a lot of ways. So like you look back on a statement like that Chris had made, where he had said on that interview I reference over and over again, the Web Sleuths interview, where he and Chris are going back and forth, and at one point Chris says to Seth, I'm trying to think of how he said this. He said, if people knew the truth about Sebastian, they would stop looking for him. I think that's pretty close
Yes.
to how it was
Does everybody
said.
remember
Or
that?
knew who Sebastian was, they would stop looking for him.
Yeah, Seth said that pretty early on, I believe, on Pascal.
Chris said that to Seth.
And right, Seth stated that Chris said that to him pretty early on.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard that quote directly.
So you heard it directly from Chris?
I thought so.
I
in
thought
an
I heard.
in an interview.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe it's Seth that's
I believe it
recalling
was
this?
Seth recalling it on Pascal.
And
Okay.
if any of you know out there, you can put in the chat if you know exactly where that statement. But I've heard it more than once.
Yeah.
Brenda Penny says, thanks, guys. Katie knows the truth and can do the right thing for Sebastian. No doubt she's the key to all of it. She knows. Getting her to talk is going to be what opens it all up. She certainly knows.
Aw.
Sirach says this live is on fire tonight.
Aw,
Good,
thank you.
good.
That's
Well, I
sweet.
mean, it's all of our show in a way. I mean, because we're having, I mean, you guys are contributing to this, and it really only works this way when we're getting the great feedback, and we feed off of that.
And our focus is helping find Sebastian and making people more aware of the case and that he is still missing, and that's our main focus. But we do like to kind of get into the cerebral parts of our brain, start thinking of different ways that we can, I guess, lend theories to what could have happened or what has happened to him. But I think that's how we've gotten to where we are.
And I'm not sure if this is directed to chat or us. Rumors, guys, we need facts. Well, tonight we're talking about some of our theories and speculations. So,
And we haven't really stated any rumors.
I did hear Seth say that and I can go back
Yes.
and look it up. I'm 99% sure it was on Pascal.
I mean, the things that we state are what we've seen in interviews, and believe me, there's been a lot of interviews.
Thanks for the clarification, Elizabeth. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh, and yes, there are a lot of people that throw some rumors out there in the chat, but we don't know their sources, so we don't want to invalidate what they say, but we try to stick to the facts.
Like when we're not doing the show, we do look at the rumors and try to see if we can verify them, and if we can't verify them, we're trying to stay away from them.
Yeah.
Right.
That's kind of our approach. Well, we know about them. We're just trying not to bring them up unless we can.
You're so funny.
Sirach says, CP showed up. You guys are the real deal. If he's trolling your lives, he is afraid of you.
That's hysterical.
Man, I don't know. I don't know if anybody's afraid of us. But, I mean, he might be afraid of... Yeah.
Well, we just try to think logically.
He probably would love for all this attention to just stop.
And so I think someone said that earlier in the chat. They thought that this would just go away.
Yeah.
And most missing kids, it does eventually die out, and they just remain a missing kid.
And I think we've talked about this before, where we think if not for the Riley Strain case, this might have just been
swept under the rug.
Yeah.
Just been another investigation.
Everyone was fascinated with the Riley Strain case, and it was all over Nashville. You want to talk about billboards and signage? It was everywhere.
Well, I actually know someone that lives in Hendersonville that said that they had seen everything about Riley Strain, but never really had seen anything about Sebastian, like signs or anything in the Hendersonville area. They live there every day or out every day at the stores and shops, and they said they saw everything about Riley Strain and nothing about Sebastian. So I think that that's a valid concern.
It was a stark contrast.
Yes,
it really was, because you had the like the big flashing, the bright billboards downtown. The ones that
they were up almost
the
immediately.
really expensive ones. I mean, his face was all over the city that way.
In just hours. In hours.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, so I think that contrast, but it's also the autism that got everybody in that autism community their attention, and it was the shoes. It was their weird interviews. It was them not talking for a week. And then red flags were just flying up around that time. And people just don't believe them for good reason.
Yeah, there's someone that says...
do we want Rodney? Is that who you want to...
No, HM Hands.
Oh, HM Hands.
Okay, hold on.
HM Hands. I'm in the area, and I just am now seeing stuff about Sebastian.
Just now? Wow.
I see flyers.
Now they did have that big thing over by the school. Remember, they did have that for a while. No. They had the big. It was almost like a road sign where they do the road messages.
Oh, one of
they did have that for a while
for construction and other things. And there was a follow up just last month. I started seeing
last month.
I just started seeing signs around.
I mean, I've definitely seen the flyers at restaurants and gas stations near where we live.
That's interesting.
It's just in comparison to others. Like we were talking about the Holly Bobo case is coming back up in the news again because this guy did a 2020 special claiming that he was lying or whatever. And Holly Bobo, of course, is Middle Tennessee missing girl also, and then at least some of her perpetrators were convicted. But when that happened, man, her picture was all over the city too. You could not go downtown to a door of any type for any store or bar and not see her face. right
Everybody
there.
knew who Holly Bobo was.
Yeah, she was absolutely all over the city. So that's
Some of our members are messaging, so I just want to acknowledge
Sure.
them.
Misty Fisher. The fact that Chris has brought up Summer Wells' case a few times is a red flag, in my opinion. Yes.
You know, we thought the same thing and said the same thing when we heard that.
Like almost like wondering if he studied them.
If he
Because-
studied true crime, because he seemed to know a lot about these cases.
In that case in particular, because it is very similar to this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that case has not been resolved yet. I hate to say it because it's so accusatory, but I think everybody knows where I'm going with that. But yeah, I just wondered if he studied them.
Mhm.
Brenda Penny, I'm worried about him whenever he is, wherever he is. This is not fair. I will never forget him. I would pray for him.
That's awesome.
That's how
Brenda.
we feel too.
Yes. We would love for him to be found alive and well and back with people that love him.
It's not. And the warning signs were everywhere that this kid was in trouble for his whole life, and everybody let him down. Everybody he knew let him down.
Elizabeth said that Duchess had billboards up for a couple of months, and Illuminati took them over this month. And I do know Duchess was in our chat once, and she was telling us about the billboards. We have not seen them.
They may have been in areas.
But they could very well be in areas we don't travel to. So,
Yeah.
there's not really Hendersonville itself doesn't lend space really for billboards. But I would assume they're probably on 65.
I bet that's what it is because we don't really go that direction on I-65. I bet they're over there. So that's probably where they are. We just haven't seen them. But that's probably just because we don't travel on that side of the city. It wouldn't fit our routine.
All right, let's
Let's see what Tennessee Nurse has to say. Tennessee Nurse, this is terrible to say, but I think one of the reasons locals don't believe flyers will do any good. Everyone I've spoken to around here think AP and CP are good. That might be true. I mean, I know that's the opinion locally, just talking to friends and
If
people.
you talk to anybody, we've
mean, that's
talked
what
to people
everyone-
in positions of power who also agree with that sentiment.
I don't know anybody that doesn't. Do you know anybody that doesn't, like a local, that doesn't think that has
Chris-
looked at this case?
Chris Proudfoot.
Chris.
I'm just joking.
That's one
I'm
vote.
just joking.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Definitely.
know.
I,
Honestly, I can't think of anybody I've spoken to personally about it that doesn't believe there's something weird.
So the locals are not on. It must be, yeah. The locals are not on their side.
along with it.
Go ahead and put that one up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it too.
You're
You're not remote.
I know.
You're here. You can do it.
Ali Michelle says, allegedly guessing they want all of this to go away. They want everyone to stay quiet, bringing too much attention. There's another child missing from Tennessee. Yes, and it is kind of ironic that Tennessee's had a lot of missing and unsolved crimes like this, and it's kind of weird, but
It is weird, but a lot of people do say though they are like, "Oh, I'm never moving to Tennessee. All the kids go missing there." you know,
I don't. I will.
they
find
don't
it-
seem to get
Yeah,
solved. I will
$10.
say that.
Well, that's the part.
Well,
But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to look at that sometime to see what the statistics
Yeah,
are.
would you guys like to see that? Would you like us to look into the statistics of the
like the
number of
ratio,
Right.
like the per capita? Like, are we really a problem state, or
compared to others.
or are we on the rise?
Mm.
I bet we're in the higher percentage.
And I know it's because you guys are close. You're in Tennessee, but
not currently?
Not
Not currently.
saying where.
Okay. We have
Dora
a
will come find us.
super chat from Misty Fisher.
Misty Fisher, is it just me, or does Katie's actions seem like she is at peace instead of being hysterically worried about Sebastian? Her actions are not of a worried, frantic mama of a missing child.
I agree
Yeah.
with that. One thing I did think though is, is it possible that she's been put on some type of medicine to calm down? I mean, I'm open for all possibilities.
And I do think people handle stress and these kind of situations differently. Not everyone reacts the way you think you always think, how would I react? And, she would be doing the same thing I would be doing. Not necessarily. Everybody reacts differently.
Well, I will say though, when you look at these cases and you look at people that have not done anything and played no part versus what we're seeing,
Well, you could compare Riley Strain's mother.
that I think that's what people did. Riley Strain's mother was out there begging and crying and pleading, and then Katie comes out and won't look at the camera, and there. And then they did that weird hand interview. Does anybody remember the weird hand interview? Where it's just their hands. Did you watch that one?
Oh, yes, I did.
that was the
weird.
third interview.
Which had to be at their request, where they had to have said, we don't want to be on camera anymore. We just want to show our hands and talk off camera. What a strange request.
Right. That made
Probably
me feel
because they knew
actually.
people, body language experts were watching them, and they thought maybe that was a way they could get around that.
And me personally, I thought, I was like, ooh, red flag, red flag, red flag. That felt guilty to me.
Absolutely.
So, I wanted. Let's see. Is that the one you wanted? Oh, that's the one you wanted. Sorry.
CR, opinions aside, there is no evidence that the Proudfoots are culpable. Well, no, there is evidence. It's just, do you have enough at this point to get a conviction? Like, there's plenty of evidence. It's just, is there?
Well,
Well,
why don't you expand on that?
Well, like,
maybe circumstantial.
right. Yeah,
but
you
not-
have circumstantial.
right.
I mean, you've got contradictions in statements. You've got this, you've got, circumstantial evidence, but you don't have forensic or anything along those lines. We don't even know which crime has been committed. We don't know. I mean, it could be that his life was taken, but it could also be that he was trafficked or kidnapped or something along those lines. We can't rule that out. We do believe there was a crime and that they have knowledge of it.
But I mean, we don't
Well,
know that he
I
didn't walk out the
believe we
door
were-
either. We don't know that. We don't know 100% that did not happen.
Well, we know that there's a criminal investigation, and we know
Right.
that the DA is involved. So we know there's a crime. It's just, what is the crime? We know it involves Sebastian. So what crime was committed against Sebastian?
Right.
So there's evidence, because the DA is not just wasting his time. He's not going out there on a lark hoping.
Right.
He's got evidence.
Right.
We can see the circumstantial evidence. We can see the statements that are the inconsistencies and the lies. So that's, that's all there. But yes, but I wouldn't say there's no evidence. There's certainly some. It's just, is there enough to get the conviction?
And there's definitely suspicious behavior as well, but it's right, like you said.
Yeah,
Is
we
there-
don't. I mean, I guess if there were enough at this point to get the conviction,
They
they'll
would.
they're either getting ready to, or will pull the trigger on that. And if they don't, then they're probably trying to nail down, finding Sebastian. Perhaps that might be the thing that they need to have happen. CR, he might be a runaway. What therefore is the crime? We've ruled out runaway. I have. I don't.
I was
he's
going
not
to
a
say,
runaway.
CR, get ready for the, why doesn't
I
he
mean,
have
we
shoes on?
I know I'm sure you had your first time with us, but we've gone through all of this up to our satisfaction. He's not a runaway, not in an unassisted sense. So, runaway with a child predator of some sort, those kinds of things. Yeah, but there's still a crime. He's not out there on his own making it at 15 years old without assistance. So there's a crime still. So and there's no evidence to support him being a runaway. There's no reason to believe that,
Oh, good point.
because it comes back to the shoes. Kid didn't run away without his shoes. If Sebastian, this is from Misty Fisher. If Sebastian ran away, there would be camera evidence, scent evidence, which there is zero evidence. Yes, the scent ended at the driveway. That is what the law enforcement has said. That it
And-
did not go past their residence.
And honestly, if he was a runaway, he would take a backpack. He would take his things
A runaway
that are
would
important
be
to him
a runaway would be prepared.
and would have shoes on.
We know that there were cameras that caught enough of the front door to get like a little light, because Chris confirmed this. right?
Mhm.
Because he said something about how if somebody had, if there, he was, because he was trying to dismiss the notion of there being an abductor come into the home, and he said no, the cameras that were there, they would have caught him moving in that light. Okay, so that tells you nobody came out that front door.
Right.
Like that's how we debunked that, right? That camera also would have caught any cars on the streets. We've go back to our video of where we what was it called?
I can
The
look.
Katie's car is missing one. We do his neighborhood.
Yeah,
And-
Katie's van is missing. We go through the
Yeah.
entire neighborhood.
We drive the whole neighborhood. If you want to see for yourself, you can see the video. We show all the homes. We show all the paths that Sebastian could have taken. He'd have to walk by like 30 homes with security cameras in any way he went. He didn't. And then the road that he would have access to is a main street with no sidewalks, like a very busy like like one of those highways, but with no sidewalks. It's just a shoulder. People would have seen him, caught him on dash cams, and yeah, I just don't. We've just dismissed that. I think it's at an extremely low possibility. Do we have a comment we want to go to? You all are laughing at something here.
Well, I mean,
I'm new to this channel. Are these lawyers? Thank you. No, we're not lawyers.
we're concerned parents.
No. We became interested in the case primarily because of Sebastian. We were local to the area. We were about a 15-minute drive from the Proudfoot home. We have a child also with autism, so we immediately became invested in it, and because it's our greatest fear that our child would disappear on us, take off, run away. He on a couple of occasions has eloped from us and gone without telling us, and we've looked around the home, called 911 and all of that. So we could, we always kind of have that in the back of our mind that he might just go out that door one day and just decide I'm walking to Disney World or something, and if that just seemed like he wanted to do it, he wouldn't think anything about not telling us. So anyway, we had that fear, and we got tied to it that way. And then we were constantly following the story, having these conversations, and we just thought, we were just talking about all this stuff, and we didn't really see
On
anybody.
vacation, I might add.
Well, I mean, in the past, before we
Oh.
did this, we would be on the back porch having these conversations, and
For every single day
we
of our
thought-
life.
we just felt like we'd see things. We didn't really think there was really a place for a conversation like we were having
No,
out there
right.
on YouTube, and we thought it might be interesting to do that. And we hadn't we started it a couple of weeks ago, and for a little while, for the first 5 episodes or so, we just we would have like 10 people or so in the chat, and we're having a great time sharing ideas and meeting people, and then we did one, and tons of folks came in. So that's kind of how that happened. But no, we're not lawyers. But I mean, we research a lot. I always kind of feel like credentialism is not necessary to study something like this. You don't have to have a badge to use logic, deductive logic, the tools that are out there.
We've discussed this. Talk about that case that was solved by the students.
You put me on the spot with these questions.
Okay.
But there was like I can't remember these details, but there, you listen to Crime Junkies. I'm a big fan of that show. They were talking about a case where it was a class assignment for these kids to just try to. I can't remember exactly how that came about, but they essentially figured out that they had this serial killer in their region and solved it. And previously, before this class, it was like a senior project or something like that. Before then, no one had even realized these killings were a serial killer. They thought they were all individual attacks, and these kids put it together, produced their case, and that became that's citizen journalism at its finest. So and these have been ladies that had lost their lives years earlier. And the common factor, I think, if I remember correctly, I think it was that they had red hair, and they solved that. They solved that and pieced that all together. There's tons of cases like that where you just never know what piece of information out there or idea might solve something. But anyway, so
Well,
kind of got off on a tangent
And I
there, but
think CR had another question, I guess, wanting our opinion of what we think.
if he eluded all these cams and his scent ended at the end of the driveway, what do you suggest is the conclusion? Oh, he eluded. Well, okay. So we we try to eliminate all the other possibilities first. So once we eliminated the idea that he was a runaway, then we looked at, like we did, eliminated Seth as a potential suspect. We did that our last show. We went through all of that. Rock solid alibi. Motive doesn't even make sense. Tons of other things, but we went through all of that. So we're just kind of whittling it down, and really what you get left with are just the Proudfoots, because I don't see how anything happens to Sebastian at that point without Katie's knowledge or direct involvement. And the primary reason for that is they have chosen over and over again to be deceptive about it, evasive, not answer questions, hide from the media for a week when he's missing. They've given if you've been here tonight, you've seen all the red flags that all of the folks in the chat have been throwing up there. I mean, everything from what are some of the like not calling Chris or Seth as soon as it happened that morning, just sending him a text saying, "Don't be mad." I mean, there are, one or two red flags is one thing, but over and over and over, they're hiding something. What they're hiding is what we're trying to figure out.
And hey, Olivia, it looks like we've got some people in here that are not being kind to one another. So if you can get to the bottom of that and take care of it, I would really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. And by the way, Olivia, don't forget to put your channel up in the chat and let everybody know Olivia has started a channel and she is the best moderator ever. So I'm sure her channel will be awesome. So
yeah, I'm just want to just do this. This is just a true statement here.
Oh, no.
Ellie knows more than they are sharing. They are still collecting evidence. They won't release anything until they have enough evidence for a solid case if someone is guilty. Yes,
100%.
It's frustrating as that is for us, the citizen. That is just the way it is, and because they have a window. Once you arrest, I think it's 45 days, 90 days, something like that. You've got a window before you've got to start the trial, start those proceedings. So you can't just like start throwing people in jail unless you think you're ready, because there's a time. It's time sensitive once you start that arrest process. So, yeah. So whatever they're working on, I still just maybe it's a gut feeling, but it's just kind of based on the way they act. I think they have it. Do you feel that way?
I feel like it. Yes. I think they
I know
do.
some people don't. I think the way they're acting, because like that statement yesterday about after the 100 days where law enforcement comes out and says, we don't have any clues. We have no leads. That actually kind of paints you as looking incompetent, right, to the general public. Where if you're trying to kind of save face and look like you're doing a good job, wouldn't you kind of be like, hey, we've got some leads out there. Want the public to know we're working hard on this. We are getting some tips. Some of these are good. We're nailing this thing down. We're working on it every day. Not just that kind of acting like throw your hands up in the air. We just we don't have anything. No idea. No clue. I think he's being a little. I think he was being a little duplicitous there. Just kind of. I don't know. I just think they have more. I think they have a lot. I just don't know if they have enough. That's my opinion on that.
And my big harp has always been, I wish that law enforcement would come out and tell us something, but there's a reason that they're not doing that, and we have to accept that.
You keep scooting further away. It's
I'm
hard
sorry.
for you to stay on camera when
You're
you
taking it personally.
Sorry.
All right.
So
Do you want to keep going with our timeline?
yeah, so I know.
We keep
kind of
getting this. We love talking to you guys, so it gets us distracted.
So back to our kind of main point was we were looking at if the CPS reports were involving Sebastian directly, does that fit? Like if it's not Chris or Katie or Seth or anyone else, if the CPS reports are actually about Sebastian's behavior at school and that was causing any kind of friction and drama, and stuff in the home. And some things kind of support that idea. Like that comment that where Chris says, if people know the truth about Sebastian, they'll stop supporting him or stop looking for him. That Seth called it the revelations in the CPS report when he finally found them is shocking, and that it eye-opening, and that he kind of said it like apparently we hadn't been communicating as well as I thought we were, because I guess some things were not being told to him. And there's one way of looking at that might be about Chris or Katie, but there's another way of looking at those statements and thinking that that's about Sebastian. So I don't know. The PI also alluded to the CPS reports and has acted like a lot of the key to the case is starting around December through February, and all of the problems that they were having as a family. Allegedly. Shirley Batista says we need to say allegedly. I don't know.
Do you want to talk about that for a second?
About what?
Allegedly.
Yeah, I don't. What should I have said allegedly on? I'm not sure.
I think anytime you report something that's been said in an interview, it's not allegedly if it's coming directly from the source. So that wouldn't be allegedly.
Yeah, I think everything we've said.
But
I
our
think
speculation,
we try really hard.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
our when we're trying to throw out some theories and ideas, those are all our
theories,
personal theories, and there's speculation. We have no idea if what we're saying is right. We're just trying to take all the evidence that we know as fact, and we really try to take out all the rumors and don't go with the rumor mill, but we look at the interviews and the statements and the actions, and that's how we get to the conclusions that we make and the theories that we come up with, and we spend many hours on those. So we try not to use any rumors to have to say allegedly.
Yeah, if you're talking about, like, if we were saying, what if this is about Sebastian? I hope it was clear that we're saying that's a what if.
They said the allegedly was for comments.
Oh,
Sorry.
It's always hard to tell.
It's always
I
hard
can't
to
tell if they're talking to us or not.
We're just not good at this yet.
Yeah.
Enough to
Yeah.
know. So please forgive us if you're not directing them at us. We just want to make sure that we just don't want to be biased, and we also don't want to deal with rumors, and that's real important to us. We just try to deal with things that we know and that we have pieced together through the facts we've gathered.
Sorry, I thought that was meant for us, but it looks like the chat's kind of clearing that up. So,
So do you want to get back to?
Yeah.
Okay, CR's new.
CR's new.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we live in Middle Tennessee. Yeah. So like that's part of why we got into this story. We're locals. Like we could get to the Proudfoots in no time. So we're very familiar with the area. I got friends that live right there. I know the high school and all that very well. So part of why that story hit home for us and why we are spending a lot of time on this, and it's
close to our
just
heart.
so many reasons. It's fascinating. It's frustrating. It's heartbreaking, and the more you learn about Sebastian's situation, you learn new layers to it all, and you realize how he was set up to fail and has been failed.
Right. CR's in Savannah. That's a beautiful city. We love Savannah. Well, do you want to keep going?
Okay.
You ready to keep going?
Sure. I'm not sure where to go from here.
I think people want us to be, I mean.
I guess we're.
Did you get to what? Okay, so we were talking about
unless
this
I'm missing-
Monday night.
Yeah. So.
We're.
Oh, you want to get back into the story part, like how we were talking about this.
Right. We keep getting distracted.
Yeah. So we were talking about this fit. So if these CPS reports are about Sebastian, does that fit the whole situation
And what behavior at school.
and his behavior at school, right? Was that causing
Stress.
significant problems, you know. I um I don't know how to go from here in that conversation.
Okay.
I think we could just see if anyone else feels the same, you know.
I'm not sure how to articulate it.
Well, we can ask. I mean,
So
we can ask. Do you guys think that might that the CPS reports could have been about Sebastian's behavior at school and not necessarily Chris, Seth, or Katie?
And could any of that information lead to why he has vanished?
Right.
Basically,
Could that be the key?
yeah.
could that be the key to the disappearance or the decision to make him not be around anymore?
What do you guys think? How about 1 for yes and 2 for no?
Yeah, 'cause we don't know.
We don't know. It's just something that we kind of a thought we had, and we wanted to see what you guys thought about it. Could that be a
Because,
motive?
you know, the thing is if you know this, he had been having CPS in his life.
Adrian's back. Adrian,
Hey,
our
Adrian.
first person.
That is
Ever.
our first. I don't even remember. Was 1 yes or 2 no? Is that what it was?
2 is no. They disagree. They're disagreeing that the CPS report could have been about his behavior at school.
Okay, so most
So-
folks are thinking it's more likely to be probably the Proudfoots. Yeah, I think that's possible.
We don't know.
We don't. We won't know. Most likely, unless there's a trial. We probably won't know. But
Well,
I guess we're
and
going with if.
I
you know?
think here, like Carolyn says, I think it's something Katie did. Well, we're not. What we're saying is, were the reasons for what was in these reports part of the reason that possibly someone was involved to take him out of the equation, to remove him from the home? Was that information part of the reason, part of the stressor, or were there other reasons that someone removed him from the home?
Because he's been a troubled child his whole life, you know, like he's had CPS in his life since he was 5, at least, that we know of. He's been in these abusive situations in a variety of ways from a variety of people, you know, for at least the last decade, both when he was with Seth and Chris, both explosive personalities. The divorce papers show all kinds of turmoil there. And, you know, if he were having behaviors at school because of it, it really wouldn't be surprising that he'd lash out and that kind of thing. I don't think that would be shocking, that he wouldn't have trouble in school in a variety of ways, that he would act out. I don't think that would be shocking. So if they were having trouble, you know.
Good Measure says yes, that they believe the reports were a reason.
Okay.
And then this person said something about I believe Sebastian was afraid of Chris because of his punishments. His teacher said he was a great student and he enjoyed being there. We don't have any firsthand information from the school that indicate that, so we don't really have that to go on as evidence one way or the other. But
And I embarrass says if a child is raised in dysfunction, he will be dysfunctional.
very good point.
That is
Yeah.
that is
That's
typically
kind
the
of
case.
that's
Unfortunately,
kind of what our theory. That's why kind of how we came to where we are today.
There's actually a
Yeah.
lot more to it, but we are sort of running out of time on. But
Yeah.
we've got a lot more to it. We've got a theory. We think we have a motive. We think we have a theory. We're putting these puzzle pieces together slowly, and they're really making sense to us. That's why we kind of wanted to see what you guys thought about it, about our idea of the possible motive, because you know.
it's a good theory right there. I mean, so
Sherry McKay, I think it was an accident and they went too far to cover it up due to CPS being involved. No matter if CPS was there at home or school, they were still involved. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Donna
Troy,
Kay.
I have thought back and forth the accident. It's either accident or premeditated are my two leading ideas also. So I
Dana
agree.
K just gifted 5 membership. Thank you,
Oh,
Dana
thank you,
K. You're
Dana. That was
it's
great.
Dana.
Dana,
I thought
I
it was
know.
Donna at first too. My
I need
bad.
these stupid readers for everything.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It was
What did-
based off the interview of the teacher.
Oh, could you? Oh, Linda, can you send me the teacher interview because
It was on your local news outside the store by their house.
I haven't seen that interview.
That would be great information to have, Linda. If you know the news station that it was on or where you saw that, we would love to have that to review.
Because I mean,
I don't know this interview.
Yeah, our son shares some of the through the years. Our son and Sebastian have had some of the same teachers and counselors, and so it could be somebody I know and could ask personally.
So Susan Smith, CP admitted he didn't want Sebastian around Faith, and Seth has made comments regarding his essay and that he was not a predator but needed more therapy. I think poor Sebastian was confused by that trauma.
That's a very good point. Yes. And we came to that conclusion as well, that he has had trauma and he needed help.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he wasn't getting the right help, and hasn't, and that's what Seth said. Seth said that ever since his the issue that Sebastian had when he was 8, if you know what I mean, the essay that occurred
I think it was
then,
7.
maybe
but
it was 7. I might be wrong. 7 or 8 years old. He said that he never got the help he needed at that point to work, to heal and recover from that. And so kind of, it makes you wonder what these bad behaviors that he was having were at school, what was going on, and why they felt the need to homeschool him when he hadn't been his whole life.
And also go into intense therapy.
And a brand new type of therapy that he'd never been in before, that they had not thought was useful prior, but at 15 years old, that now it was time to start and to,
And what behaviors prompted this intensive therapy need immediately?
because this massive change to his life was a decision they were making before he went missing.
Right.
So something was going on that they thought
When
There
school-
needed to be a change.
that
Right.
almost an emergency change to his life.
And Seth made the comment, he wasn't looking forward to living with him because he wanted to be in school and he didn't want to have to do online school. And I don't think it was the therapy or anything that was what he was not wanting to do, but he didn't want to be away from school.
And so Painted Lady 82, in my opinion, that's blaming the victim who just wasn't being handled right from the beginning because adults thought it was misbehaving, as opposed to trace of autistic meltdown from being overwhelmed. Blaming the victim.
Painted Lady may not realize we have an autistic child.
Yeah.
Um,
This wasn't being handled right from the beginning because adults thought it was.
And
sorry
we
to say
agree.
that
We
word.
agree that they probably were not getting him the therapy he needed from the beginning. I think that he was a fairly new autistic diagnosis. He had some other medical diagnoses
About a year ago. Yeah.
but he was only diagnosed with autism about a year ago, and so we think some of those behaviors were newly surfacing behaviors that had just come out as he began to be an
Right.
adolescent, and it's starting to get older, and we were trying to piece together when these behaviors started that is requiring him to go live with his dad, have intensive therapy, and online school.
Yeah, I hope it's not coming off as blaming the
No,
victim
we're not
at all.
not at all. We're just trying to figure out how that plays into everything
But-
that's happened.
But there's a motive. If he's, someone's made him leave for a reason, for some reason. And if it's the parents, what is that reason, And there's a lot of possibilities, but this is what was going on in his life at the time that he disappeared. I mean, you have to look at what was happening, and that's what was happening. He was getting ready to be pulled from school for some reason. I mean, none of this is this kid's fault. He's been absolutely failed by all 3 of the parents.
From the get-go.
And
Since he was
DPS,
since he
law
was a
enforcement,
small
the
child.
community, the teachers. I mean, like literally everybody in this kid's life, because he gave all the warning signs. He's been crying for help. from the time that he was at least 5 years old and was been ignored. And it's nothing. None of it's his fault.
And you may have
He-
missed that because we did talk about that a little
Huh.
bit before, and you may
Right.
not have been with us, but we did talk about, how he had been failed since he was born.
Yeah, and his special needs make it even worse that there should have been far more care given to this child. So if this situation were incredibly difficult for them, some of you are mentioning the things, like the Chris not wanting Sebastian around Faith, and the other allegations from other family members, and these comments that have been made by both Seth and Chris. Could that all be a motive for Katie? And when we kind of plugged that in our talk the other night, it was hard to find contradictions against it. It was hard to find. Well, because usually when we come up with an idea or a theory, we go, yeah, but you forgot about the shirt, or what about the locked door over the, we can usually come up with stuff like that. And that one, that idea, I don't know, that idea it rang true.
To all three of us.
To all
three of
which
us.
hardly ever happens.
Right.
We
Yeah.
thought back on the way they acted on Katie's behavior. Like, okay, so let's say,
Even back from the beginning statement of Seth, don't be mad.
Mhm.
Don't be mad. I mean, we just took all these statements that they have made publicly in interviews and put them together and said that they kind of create a picture for us as to the direction that
Like-
this case has gone into.
like if Sebastian's behaviors were getting really out of control and difficult, and most parents with teenagers that have autism will tell you that age frame, that's the toughest. That's when they are by far the most difficult to handle, just puberty and all that. That they're all very difficult. And if you've got a child with autism and has a lifelong history of abuse in various forms, I can't even imagine what kind of behaviors this kid's been having. Was he maybe just more than they felt they could handle?
Could that be a possible motive?
Is that part of it? Was it just a challenge they weren't up to and wanting to really deal with? I don't know.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mhm.
Let's see. Tennessee Nurse just watched the interview with the teacher. I have seen that one. They aren't giving intel or anything, just bragging about how amazing he is.
If you don't mind, Tennessee Nurse, can you put it either in the comments or email it to us at mretruecrime@gmail.com?
We'd like to watch
I
it.
would really like to watch it, or just tell me right now what channel it was on and I'll find it.
And thanks for coming back to Tennessee Nurse. I recall the name.
CR wants to know what our broadcast schedule is. I have to be honest. I wish I knew.
Well,
It would make my life a lot easier.
I know.
That's a great question for you guys. How many times a week would you like to see us be on, and what's a feasible amount of time that you think that we should broadcast nightly?
And please don't say 7 days because you guys would get sick of us really fast.
Yeah, I don't
Let's
think
see.
we have that in this.
Adrian, our very first viewer.
Very fierce viewer. That's right.
Linda Meccan. I know how to say
Linda
that.
McInerney.
I can never say it right, but I know how to
Channel
say
5,
it. News
Day
Channel
5,
3 months ago. Really?
Well,
That was probably in the initial.
every news station.
That was probably right when
he
he was missing. They went to the school. What can you tell us about Sebastian? Type of thing.
Well, I want to see who that was.
I mean, every station was running stuff, so you can't see it all back then.
I felt like I saw it.
Well,
all.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound ugly, but anybody that's interviewed from a school perspective, they're not going to say anything negative.
They can't.
They
they
can't.
can't legally.
They can't tell you he has special needs. They can't tell you that he had behavior problems. Honestly, they really should have said they didn't have a comment because any information can possibly implicate, them, and especially with a special needs child, they're really not allowed to tell anything about that child as it relates to him. But they probably were just trying to paint him in a really positive picture, because that was initially when went missing. But you have to be very careful with those kinds of things when you're being interviewed as an educator.
I'm sure. Yeah. Get in big trouble for that.
Yes.
So sorry, we're looking through the comments again. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So Carolyn Marlin, you want to read?
I was going to help you. At the special ed.
Oh, I worked with special ed for years, and as a what is it?
I think it's
I can tell y'all care about your son. We could tell who cared and who didn't.
that's the point. That's
Yes.
the point I was trying to get.
And
at.
you can, as an educator, whether you're an assistant, an instructional assistant, a teacher, administrator, a counselor, whatever you are in that school, you do know the parents that care and will do whatever it takes to help their child be successful in school and in life. And yeah, it's an obvious thing that you can tell as a school worker.
I like what you're saying there,
Well-
Sherry. 2 or 3 times a week sounds good to me.
I think that's about right for us. Yeah.
But I do think we're going to work on Sebastian, but I do think we're going to branch out. So if you guys have any suggestions of any other cases to look at or that you'd like to hear about, we've been talking a lot about possibly doing maybe one episode about the Caleb Harris
And that
situation
and
and well,
There's
I
a
mean,
few
we're
that-
interested in the Soto case as well, but
Yeah, I some of these I think like we've said, Sebastian will always be something
it's
we're
close to my
covering
heart, our
on
heart.
this channel
Yeah.
until it's resolved at least. Because just simply because we can't quit thinking or talking about it. We seem to always have
We've
some.
spent this entire vacation talking
I
about
know, the
it. That's
kids-
why we felt like we had to go ahead and go live.
Let's just get it
Just
off
get it
our
over.
chest, get it out there in the air.
They said they have not heard neighbors interview, but
There
we'll
is
try.
a neighbor interview. The person says the person's a neighbor. The neighbor will not say their name on the audio. So that's one of those things I sort of have to take with a grain of salt.
Yeah. I just the anonymous stuff.
And I agree. A lot of people said you go and interview the neighbors, and yes,
I agree.
yeah, that would be a great place to start with some
Would you-
actual.
I mean, how do you
But
walk
I-
up to somebody and they're mowing their lawn? Hey, can you tell me a little bit about the Proudfoots? I mean, what do you want to?
I mean,
that's
How do you do that?
that's a hard one.
we've heard, I mean, if I'm living over there, I'm not doing an interview. If I lived in their neighborhood,
Absolutely not.
you don't, I wouldn't mess up where I lived that way with the neighbors and get involved for, if I had information, I'd give it to the police, but I wouldn't go do an interview.
It's
if I
the
were
one
them.
with the husband and the wife. It's legit.
Oh, okay. So
I
if they're
don't
on,
know
so we may
what
not know
channel
that.
that is. If you wouldn't mind to, I mean, I don't care if anybody knows about the channel.
I'll tell you one thing I did think. So
If you want to put it in the chat, that's fine. I don't know who it is.
maybe this is just me, but and I've mentioned this on our show here a couple of times, but when we did go through the neighborhood, I did not see a single sign up for Sebastian in any yard or anywhere other than the Proudfoot's home, which I thought that was
It's
weird.
bizarre.
It just seemed like,
Even
I
if
don't
you
know,
don't like them as people,
we've got some great neighbors, and I feel like if we were going through this, I bet a lot-
Everyone in your neighborhood would do
I
that.
bet-
well,
bet a-
we've had a pretty significant thing happen with our neighborhood. We had a parade coming home from the hospital with one of our kids. So
I
yeah,
just think that there'd be support from my neighbors, or at least a lot of them. So I just think it's weird that just out of support that there's not some neighbors, and so in a way that
Well,
to me tells me
I guess
I bet they're not liked over there.
And I'm kind of wondering why the news media hasn't gone and even tried to interview them off of camera and said, we have a neighbor that said this, and they don't want their name to be divulged, but this is one of the neighbors that we verified in the neighborhood. I mean,
apart from Nick Barris, though, there's nobody talking about this.
No,
I know,
that's
and
true.
that's troubling. in
And
itself.
Nick Barris has been saying some not nice things about online creators and you guys, and people on Facebook and in groups and
Sweetie
Can I say this?
Pilo.
yeah, go
Can I
ahead.
say
I mean, okay,
So-
just keep in mind you
I've met Nick. I like
yeah,
him.
you've met Nick and you like Nick.
Yes.
So
So there's nothing actually personal against him. I like him. I've met him before and whatever. But you know, we all have different opinions, and he kind of
Okay,
would
I
take these
saw that.
shots at people being online armchair detectives is how he calls it or whatever. That law enforcement, you know, they've got this, and you know, we don't need the help from the internet and armchair detectives, and yet that law enforcement
I actually
does.
love that name, by the way. I love
What?
I know it's supposed to be negative, but I think armchair
why
detective
not?
is kind of awesome.
But you know, on the one hand, law enforcement comes out and they're like, "Yeah, you guys aren't helping," but then on the other hand, they say, "Well, we need your help. Go check your crawl space twice a day," which is a waste of everyone's time, right? When they know he's not a runaway, and law enforcement has been out there saying, "Go check your crawl space twice a day." Well, they know he's not a runaway. They know they're doing an investigation.
Right. And I have a
And-
very good friend who they checked her house a few times, or
And
checked around her house a few times.
I don't appreciate law enforcement wasting the public's time that way myself, because I think that's that kind of deceptive ask of the public when they have themselves stopped calling it a missing person search, and they've gone into the investigative
That's
phase.
funny.
Mhm.
Oh, and
Olivia.
Olivia B says she's very interested in the Caleb Harris case. So are we.
Yeah.
I'm too.
And it's not the whole he didn't have shoes thing either. It's just
Another very perplexing disappearance that there's literally
bizarre.
been no.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
If you don't know that one, it is very interesting.
And-
We'll probably cover that one.
Well,
some
at least
point.
spend a day, at least one
I
episode
think
on
I
it.
think a day. I think we can do it in a day and talk about all the interesting angles on that story.
This one's kind of funny. Go ahead.
I am to bear. Do you guys know Kathy Bowersox? I heard the family buys the town and silence.
To be honest, well, I mean, I sound like Chris. Uh-oh.
To be honest, yeah.
Um,
Like you're not honest.
Like I haven't been honest. Before all of this, I never heard of this Kathy Bowersox. I didn't even know she was a realtor, and I know a lot of realtors in Middle Tennessee, and I had never heard of these people before all this. So
Yeah, see, I don't think that there's a Hendersonville.
I don't think they're as wealthy as everybody thinks they are.
Hendersonville has a lot of money, and it's like and there's generations
A
of
lot of
people.
old money. there.
Generational.
And it's where, like, you know, there's a good old boy system there, but it's largely generational. So it's like, oh yeah, I know your grandparents, and
I went to high school with you. Yeah.
You know, their kids go to the same high school, You know, it's like that.
And occasionally you'll just have like a country music star living next to you.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, Johnny Cash lived there, Barbara Mandrell, Conway Twitty.
A
you know,
lot of the Oak Ridge boys live in
Well,
the
I
area.
saw one of the
Taylor
Oak Ridge
Swift went
boys
to high
in
school
short.
there. You know, so I mean, there's tons of country music connections. So there's plenty of money in that area. So to me, like when people talk about the Bowersox like running the town, it's not like they don't have the money to run that town. You know,
Right. They don't. No,
couldn't.
there's more money there than they have.
Yeah, there's way
Yeah.
bigger
What-
power player type of people that live in Hendersonville
Supposedly
than
they have
than-
a lot
than
of friends
them.
in law enforcement.
Well, I mean, that's just a rumor.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
yes.
Yeah.
well, let's just address this part. I've thought about this. Like, I've got a college roommate that's a Metro police officer, but I think if I tried to do anything to my child, he wouldn't do anything for me.
You have a college roommate that was a Metro police
Yeah, I'm not going to
officer?
name names.
I did not know this.
Well, I do,
This is new information.
but like if I were going to commit a crime, I couldn't just call him up and say, hey,
Hey, can you keep that on the download
yeah,
for
can we
me?
do- I mean, who has friends like that would get themselves involved that way? I mean, you would have to have a long life history of crime almost to be. I don't know. That would be a big ask just for having some friends. So I don't know about the having friends in law enforcement. Maybe,
mean,
but
You know,
That's
you
hard for me to
always
believe.
you always hear about a good old boy system, in that thing, and I don't think that it can't happen, but I'm just still think there's
Oh,
an easier
Susan
solution.
Smith
Hendersonville is called. Yeah, that's accurate.
That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Susan Smith, Hendersonville is called Little Franklin. I'm in Gallatin, born and raised. I've never heard of the Bowersox or Broadfoot family.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're also in Sumner, so yeah.
Yeah, there's a
We've
joke.
never heard of them.
Yeah, it's they're Hendersonville people that think they're.
Oh,
there's a joke.
oh, it was a phrase.
Which are-
One of our friends said at a party. They said, "Oh, what was it? It was really funny."
They're Hendersonville people that think they're Franklin people or something like that. Meaning
Franklin,
that
you guys,
Franklin is like-
the people that are here don't know that Franklin is like the crazy wealthy, like the
that's
most
where
money in Middle
all the-
Tennessee is probably in
yeah,
Franklin.
all the Titans live down there. All the movie stars buy homes there. It's just crazy money. It's a cute little quaint. Where it used to be really cute and quaint, and now it's just really
That's
overcrowded.
interesting.
But it is by far the
Yeah, but I mean, I
wealthier
used to see like Reese
part of the state.
Witherspoon, and we would see Tim McGraw and Faith Hill shopping, and we would, what's her name? Nicole Kidman. They all live over there
all of them have bought homes
Well,
down there.
in that
But yes,
side
you're
on that
right.
side of town.
It's yes, little Franklin.
Which
is
one do you
accurate.
want me
That
to
one,
do?
I just thought it was an interesting comment.
Jules, Chris is friends with
I think she meant law enforcement.
Law enforcement, probably.
Chris is friends with law enforcement there. They haven't investigated CPKP properly at all. Everyone has felt Sebastian. It was either Sebastian go or CP was going. I can buy that a lot. I think that could be possible because I can imagine
Which
he's
part?
got friend. Well, if he has friends in law enforcement and something happens, they might have given him a benefit of the doubt. Going, oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I see what you mean.
Going,
yeah,
oh, yeah, I know Chris. Well, let's look for his kid. His kid's gone, and they might have overlooked those early red flags.
Yeah.
Because the big red flag should have been him calling the sheriff's department on that 3-way call. That should have been like alarm bells or something wrong here. But according to some sources that we think are believable, they didn't understand that this was not a missing persons case until 72 hours later, that it was something else and a criminal matter. So it seems that they may have overlooked any criminal possibilities in the beginning.
Yeah.
At least that's the appearance. That might be not right, but I could believe bias certainly playing a role. Like if you have a friend in the police force and you're like, hey man, my kid's missing, help me out.
Well,
I could see them believing him.
I've not been able to confirm this, Diane. I haven't been able to confirm that, so I can't really say about that one. Sorry, I don't know.
And I would guess too, like, wouldn't
I'm crystal clear on my opinion.
how far is that getting you anyway? Like if you have a sister working at the police department and there's a detective assigned to the case, how much influence does that one officer have on that detective working on a case? They're bringing in the DA, they're bringing in TBI. What could one sister even
What?
do?
What?
Well, and
If that
from
were-
my
even if that were true,
understanding, I
don't
haven't
know.
confirmed it. From my understanding, it's not an active like police type role. It's more like a clerical
Yeah.
type of role.
So again, it might make people biased.
Well, I guess
I would believe
my
that.
question too, when you're talking about the early stages of the case turning into a criminal investigation, I mean, they got search warrants to look at the trash
The landfill.
Yeah.
landfills, and you wouldn't do that if you were thinking a child was a runaway.
Right.
So that in itself shows a change in what they believed, that he was not running away. He was, somehow disposed of.
And what was it that we were listening to Bullhorn Betty today? There was a really great point about if he had been considered abducted. Why it was important that he would be considered a runaway versus being abducted. Do you remember this?
Oh, the resources. She said because they would have had much better resources.
Right.
If an abduction, doesn't that go into a federal
Right.
situation where you have FBI involved? If it was an abduction, I believe that was discussed
Right. So like
at some point.
because there's a way of looking at this where it'd be like, well, it would have made a whole lot more sense for Katie if you believe that Katie is involved in Sebastian's disappearance and needed a cover story. it would have made a lot more sense for her to have said, I think he was abducted. Look, my door's wide open. There was a struggle in the bedroom. Things are knocked over, or whatever, stage of thing. And then say, oh, my son was abducted. But she couldn't do that because they would have known that would have ratcheted up the police.
Right.
So they had to go with he just disappeared. Logically, that was the safer avenue to take, and that makes sense. It was a good point that Bullhorn Betty made that I had not thought of it that way.
I think maybe we should probably wrap it up for tonight. We're a little bit over 2 hours.
We are, and
Yeah.
our goal has been to be in that 1 hour and a half to 2 hour range, I think.
Mhm.
But thank you so much for joining us tonight.
And we're ending with over 200 people, 278. So that's great. Thanks for
Yeah,
sticking
thank you,
around
guys.
with us tonight and listening through our theories and
Helping us work through them.
Yes, and please don't forget to like and subscribe and share with other people that you think would enjoy our podcast. We want to make sure to always put Sebastian and the cases that we do look at, the people that are missing or that have had crimes committed against them. We want to keep those people forefront in our mind, and we hope that Sebastian is found. That's our goal, to spread that information. But we're going to have our theories, and we're going to share those with you. And again, that's all our speculation and our opinion. It does not reflect anything else but our opinion. But we feel like it's okay to share those things.
And thank you to everyone in the chat.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for our new members. Yay. Thank you for the super chats, all the fun stuff. I also just want to throw out the number. I know all of you guys listening probably know this, but if you do have any tips about the disappearance of Sebastian, please call 1-800-TBI-FIND.
Yeah, and if you have any comments, thoughts, we read all of them. So one of us is reading all of them at least, and it's great for us to see. We'd love to hear other theories, thoughts, things we haven't maybe talked about in this case at all, or angles, or anything we talked about tonight. We'd love to hear your feedback on that. If you see any holes in any of our theories, I love that kind of stuff. I love challenging our ideas. That we welcome that, as long as everything's kind of in a friendly type of way. That's great.
And also, do we want to give any, our watchers an assignment? Just kind of answer a question for us in the chat after the video's over. That I love to read the comments. I go through and try to answer as many as I possibly can. Do you have anything?
I don't know.
Well, maybe we just ask for people's theories.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a valid motive?
How about, well, because motive is not a topic we have talked about as much, we mostly have focused on the how and not so much the why up till tonight.
Let's
really,
hear
we
other
started to
people's
get into
why.
that. Let's hear your number one why. Who and why?
Yeah.
That he's either been taken or unalived or out there somewhere. Whatever you think actually happened, what's the motive behind it? Because
Not
That's
just how it was done, but why it was done.
yeah, it's a little tougher in a way to come up with something that works, that fits all the evidence, because there's always like something that conflicts, but that would be interesting to hear. Yeah, we'd love to hear those ideas.
So after the video, for the replay crew, go ahead and put your top idea for motive in the chat.
Yeah, that would be fascinating, because we have not discussed that as much, and we'd like to know where everybody's kind of at, and I think there's a lot of possibilities. It's like an Agatha Christie novel with all the motives potential out there, right?
And I also want to thank Olivia B again. She's wonderful. She's a great moderator, and she really does help us out a ton. And thank you to all of our new members and our super chats. We appreciate all of you guys so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
see you guys soon.
much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.